Good afternoon, Harlem and Harlems of the world. I am Terri Wisdom, and this is Harlem Network News. And it is a great day in Harlem, as it is every day. Harlem Network News, as many of you know, is a new media platform. We started at the onset of COVID, and we're still here. We really started so that folks in the Harlem community and the Harlems of the world would be informed and know what's going on. At the onset of COVID, many Black and brown people were walking around saying, I can't get it. And that's because they did not see their self on the news. So we felt it was critical for us to just jump in, get into the deep water, and really start Harlem Network News. Knowledge is power, and we're still here. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We're on Clubhouse, HarlemNetworkNews.com, and soon to be on our public access cable, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, so that we can expand our viewership. Today, I have a very important guest here, and that is in the person of our new, and I can say new, it's been about 4 months, City Council member from District 9, and that is Kristin Richardson Jordan. Kristin, if you would just say hello to everyone in the Harlem and the Harlems of the world audience, and let us know who you are and whose you are. Just give us a bit of background so that you can introduce yourself to everyone.
Definitely. Thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be here. I think this might be my third time perhaps on the show.
Yes.
I am the city councilwoman for New York City Council District 9, which is Central Harlem. We go from 110 to 155th Street. It's great to be on and just talk about some of the work that we're doing. I said this in previous broadcasts, but I ran on this platform of radical love. I'm a third generation Harlemite and have a ton of love for the community. I also consider myself a radical activist and an organizer first. So very different from your traditional politician. My background has been as a teacher, an activist, and a poet, publishing 2 of my own poetry books, as well as having an independent publishing press. And so I think, you know, in terms of whose I am, I mean, I'm certainly the districts and Harlem's. I also would say I'm, you know, an artist, art activist, and Black radical.
Okay. So what made you decide to run for office? And I think it's kind of self-explanatory based on, you know, your background, but what really, tipped it and made you say, okay, I have to do this. It's really important. Thank you.
So I'm a spiritual person. So it actually came in a moment of meditation and prayer. And I think it was a couple different things coming together. I really felt called to run. And called to serve in this way. But there were definitely other factors. You know, I was inspired by the midterms, the last round, our last round of midterms, where we saw the elections of the squad and some of these radical activists. And I also was really turned off by our current elected at the time voting for de Blasio's plan for new jails. I was actively pushing for no new jails. And I started to realize that all of this rallying outside the system and rallying at the system is all super important. And also that I am personally part of the system, that we are each part of it. And so it is incumbent upon us to also make that change happen.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think it's very important, and you know that I share your sentiments. Just in terms of, as opposed to complaining about what's happening in the community and this and that, I just encourage everyone to become involved. And it's actually why I got onto the community board. And it's also really why I started Harlem Network News, because, you know, my background has been in film and television for many years. And then I also operated as an entrepreneur here in Harlem for
That's
many years. So it gave me a good cross range of what's happening. But time and time again, even on our local news, we don't often see our stories covered. And there tends to be a slant on, if there's a murder or, something of that nature, then we get coverage. But just for basic information and just getting the story straight, or even human interest stories, good things that are happening. We don't really get that. So that's where Harlem Network News aspires to really fill that gap. So for those of you who are just joining, this is Harlem Network News. I'm Terri Wisdom, and I'm here with our City Council member, Kristin Richardson Jordan. And can you just share with us what is the responsibility? What happens on the City Council? What does the City Council do? What is the City Council connected to, so that people can get the significance of the position that you hold and the responsibilities? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question. So our city council operates as a legislative body in conjunction with the mayor, not unlike how Congress operates as a legislative body in conjunction with our president on the national level. So we're really meant to be a check and balance on mayoral control, as well as legislate city level laws. I would also add that because city council is a very local, it's our most local level of government, that we spend a lot of time on constituent service as well. And I think more so than other elected positions, city council members are seen as a go-between to really link our local community in our districts with government in general.
Okay. So that gives some clarity. So the City Council is very connected to the mayor, to the borough president as well. How
Oh,
are those lines going? Just so that everyone can be clear.
so we have different city council districts
Okay.
all throughout all 5 boroughs. We have 51 seats on the city council,
Mhm.
and then the borough president will work with a collection of districts, right? So in Manhattan, I'm city council district 9 Central Harlem, but in Manhattan we have 10 different city council districts.
Okay.
All work with our borough president.
Okay.
Um, and
Okay.
I think, in terms of the overarching things we do, I mentioned legislative, but it's also budget season, and a big piece of what the city council does is sign off on the budget. We either choose to adopt or reject a proposed budget by the mayor called the executive budget, and we also get our own discretionary budgets, as well as member designated initiative funds, and parts of the city budget that we as council members are also working to designate.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So, what are some of the things on the table? Because I know this week, you told me that you were super busy because it was budget time and all of that. But what are some of the things, the legislative, things that are on the table in the city council right now? And I also know that this city council is pretty unique because we have a lot of new people in the city council who haven't been in before. We also have a huge amount of women in the city council. We have the city council leader, and I'm not sure exactly what the term is, but that is a woman too, and it is a Black woman. So if you could just share some of the things that you're dealing with, particularly as it would affect your district and the overall city. So thank you.
Yeah, there's been some great legislative stuff on the table. I'm really excited to actually be a co-sponsor on over 30 bills,
Wow.
um, and so we're just getting started. I won't read out all of them, but there were a few that we highlighted in our monthly newsletter. So I did pull those up just so I could highlight those. We passed a resolution to have increased support for survivors of violent crime. That's That's particularly insightful given we're a majority female council. So what this means is right now, those who are experiencing violent crimes, they can receive supportive funds. However, you have to report it to the police, and there's a series of steps in order to actually receive those funds, that compensation. So one of the things we did was pass legislation to widen that, and to make it so, especially for those of us who are Black and Brown women, we do often underreport, to make it so that if you are the victim of a violent crime, you can access those benefits. Even if perhaps you choose not to report it to police, you would still be entitled to those benefits. So we have also increased the availability of naloxone, which is a life-saving drug for those who are engaging in opioid use. This is literally saved lives throughout the city. We're increasing fire safety, particularly some of the safety codes around doors. If you know about the fire that happened in the Bronx, and making sure that we do fine landlords for those doors. We've actually increased what that fine and that pushback is going to be. And implementing rent stabilization for small businesses is something that has been introduced as well, to try to keep our longtime small businesses in our communities. And those are all just some of the initiatives that I've signed on to as a co-sponsor.
Oh, great.
I'm also really proud to be prime sponsor on an elected civilian review board, which is something I ran on. It's been in the works for a minute, but it is going to be a independent elected board that would have firing and suspension power over the local police. And that's some legislation I'm very excited about. I'm also prime sponsor on a bill called Housing First. Housing First would actually make a tweak to our city charter to change us from just being a right to shelter city to being a right to housing city. And this is actually fundamental because right now, housing is not a human right in New York City. What we have is a right to shelter and a shelter system that frankly has been profiting off of the most vulnerable.
Absolutely.
So with Housing First, this legislation would actually move us towards requiring permanent housing, having to provide permanent housing solutions for those who are houseless.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And, you know, here at Harlem Network News, we really and truly believe knowledge is power. And just the way that you put that this is a right to shelter city, but not a right to house. And that's a huge difference. And I guess most of us, I hadn't even myself really thought about it in that way. You know, right to shelter, right to house. Those are two different things. And, you know, we can really see that in the amount of the homeless, you know, people that we have, and people not wanting to go into the shelters because they don't feel safe or whatever the conditions are. And then it's always been a concern. You know, I don't know about now, but I do know that at points in New York City, people were being sheltered in hotels, and they were paying an inordinate amount per night, you know, for a hotel, which if someone had just gotten an apartment, even in New York City, it would have been cheaper than what they were paying and what the conditions were, and the fact that they didn't really have cooking. And, you know, so it's a lot to unpack. I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and I'm here with our city council member, Kristin Jordan Richardson, and I'm reversing it. I always do that. Kristin Jordan, and she's with City Council District 9. Could you speak? I know there was another issue, and I don't know if this happened before you were there or after, but giving the right to non-citizens to vote. Can you unpack that and let us know what does that mean? And when will that happen? And has that been put into effect? What are the circumstances surrounding that?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. So that's actually legislatively, that's something that passed at the tail end of the last session. Uh,
Okay.
but but I will say that I think I do think it's good legislation. I do understand there's been concerns around it because what it means is that those who are here that are here as green card holders would have the ability to vote in our local elections. One of the things that I want to say is that I'm a big advocate to increase voting rights across the
Mm,
board.
okay.
And I want to highlight and acknowledge that our community, specifically Black, when I'm saying our community, specifically our Black community,
Mhm,
is disenfranchised when it comes to voting.
mhm.
And the current state of things is no different. So we now have something on the books where those who have green cards are able to vote, but we have still not done the work to
Yeah.
allow those who have been vilified, those who are, in my opinion, those who are incarcerated should also have
Yes.
the right to
Mm,
vote. Um, those with records can vote in New York, but many don't know that.
mm,
And that's been disenfranchising to our community. So I just want to say that as we're pointing out this legislation that allows non-citizens the right to vote, and does empower what many see as majority Latinx community,
yes.
that we also need to make sure we are empowering our Black community because the voting rights should be universal. And they should not be a disenfranchisement to us. I also want to say that we are personally, at me personally and our office, doing some intentional work on letting people know about their right to vote, particularly in Little Senegal and
Mhm.
parts of our district where we have African immigrant population that may not be aware that they can now
Well,
vote.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. And, New York City, particularly, we're speaking about Manhattan and, our districts, but it's very, very diverse. And we do have a huge Latinx population, but we also do have a large first generation African population,
Right.
as well as an Arab population.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
and
Yes.
Caribbean, of
Yes.
course. And we can't really, I don't know if the numbers or the census, has told this, but we don't actually know who's a citizen, and who, has a green card. Because there are many people that have been here for many, many years, that have green cards that are not citizens that are working. And I guess it would it up for that. But I think the concern with some people, and I don't know if the time period is like you had to be here 30 days or what you have to.
It is a small, yes, I will definitely acknowledge that. And I didn't, as I said, this came at the end of the last legislative
Yes.
session. So I didn't cast a vote on this, but that would have certainly been something that I would have wanted to know more about, and see if there was a way to even adjust, because that is honestly a really short amount of
Right.
time.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
do think that criticism is a fair critique. While like I said, while I do support the legislation, I believe in the right to vote. I believe in expanding rights to vote. I believe those who are not citizens should get to vote. 30 days is a very short period of time.
Right. Okay. So thank you for clarifying that. And I guess a lot of voter education needs to be done to just let everyone know that they are now eligible. And then I guess some big guidance needs to be done in terms of, just voter education, how to vote, who's on the ballot, the different opinions that those on the ballot have
Absolutely.
and how it will affect them, and I
Absolutely. And
think
that's
that's been a challenge for the citizens,
yes,
so for
yes.
people who are
I,
non-citizens
and I
voting
was
for the
gonna
first
say
time.
that's why
Yeah.
what you're doing is so important, just to talk about that, because having platforms like this where people can get informed is essential. And I think I do worry about our community being left behind, which is why, like I said, my office has done an intentional effort. We've done several workshops, we've done a couple outreaches, and we plan to do more. And each time we've done something around this, there has been shock and awe with people realizing that they can now vote. So that is definitely
Yeah,
a
so it's
voter
about
education.
getting the word out and being
Yeah,
the drumbeat,
yeah.
and our community, and this is another reason, this is Harlem Network News. I'm Terri Wisdom, and I'm here with Kristin Richardson Jordan, and she is our city council person for City Council District 9, which includes Central Harlem. But it is critical for people to just get the information, be informed. And a lot of people in our community, and not only our communities, I mean, New York City is that kind of city where people are so overwhelmed with
Yeah.
survival that a lot of times they don't know what's going on. Would you just share, Christian, because I think you did something innovative in terms of putting your office like right on the street. Could you
Yes.
speak a little bit about that? And then if you could just touch on, I know you've been in office about 4 months, but could you just give us a brief overview of some of the things you feel that you have accomplished, and also how you actually are connecting with and reaching out to the community? So thank you.
Yes, definitely. I'm very happy with the decision to do an office in community. I will say I was very inspired by, others in the community who have done it. Our last borough president, Gail Brewer, had one right on 125th, and so our office is on 135th. So my office is right across from the YMCA. It's 181 West 135th Street. We actually hold our office hours inside a larger community center, which is great in terms of people are also coming there for other community resources. The youth are in and out, so we get to have a constant dialogue with them.
Okay.
And there's lots of extra space, so it allows for us to be able to book space and do some great community workshops and events.
Okay.
Um, we are also an office that engages in mobile constituent service. So
Mhm.
aside from having the office in the community on the block, you could just walk in. We also go out and visit different areas of the district. We go out 6 out of 7 days of the week and visit
Okay.
different
That's
areas of the
exciting.
district.
Wow.
Because I truly believe that we need to be that bridge. That's what I think local government we can do with our district offices is be that bridge that helps connect those who, as you put it, are surviving. Those who may not know all of what's going on, and be a bridge to help connect them to resources and what's going on in local government. So that outreach is also happening. We had a huge backlog. I'm just gonna say it because it should be said, that unfortunately people were waiting for months for basic constituent services,
Okay.
and that wasn't happening. So I actually entered office into a backlog,
Okay.
and one of the things
And
I'm
when you
really
say, just to
yeah.
clarify, when you say constituent services, because a lot of people may not even know
Oh,
that there are constituent services. So what are you referring to when you're saying constituent services? And when you go out, are you in a bus, or how do people know you're there? And who is we? So your staff. So
okay.
thank you.
No, these are great questions. So constituent services is basically like it sounds, it's us serving our constituents, but mostly it's connecting people with resources and or helping them navigate government agencies.
Okay.
So a lot of it is repairs, people not receiving the repairs that are due on their apartments. So in the cases of NYCHA, we'll help folks navigate that system of putting in a ticket. We'll advocate for those who have put in a ticket and have not received the repairs that they should have received. And we'll do that for private landlords. We'll reach out and say, listen, this isn't XYZ is happening. If it's a code violation that warrants a city fine, we can escalate that. So a lot of it is for pairs, but sometimes it's also people needing to know about health services. Sometimes
Okay.
it's mental. We have sites and places for free therapy in the city, letting people know about that.
Oh,
Sometimes it's legal support. We have a connection with legal aid. We have some connections with Goddard Riverside and
mhm.
others who are providing legal support for tenants that are facing eviction or for other legal defense issues or other legal issues. So it's basically helping the people of Harlem with issues that come up in their lives and using government as a tool to help people.
Okay.
And when I say we, I mean my beautiful office team.
Okay.
We have a great service team, constituent service team.
Mhm.
It's actually a bit of a different model because we have not only a director of constituent services, which is very normal for a city council office,
Okay.
but we also have area captains for different parts of the district. So we're
Okay.
able to give people some of that extra care and support. I honestly wish we could do even more, but we do make the budget stretch and really provide services. And my team is uh, excellent. It's people from Harlem, it's Black and Brown representative of the community. And so they serve from that passion place, which is the same place I serve from, of being one and a part of our community.
Okay. Okay. That sounds great, and it
Yeah.
looks like you have gotten off to a good start.
Yeah.
And obviously, in this community and in the world, the country, so much is overwhelming. There's so much that's happening, and it's trying to figure out, how do I chip away at it, and it has to be very strategic.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, very, very tangibly. So I'm very proud of our accomplishments with constituent service
okay,
because we're closing 100 to 150 cases a month on the regular
okay,
of
excellent.
people with needs. But we also very tangibly, I was able to negotiate with DSNY to get more trash cans to our district. Now,
Okay,
granted, many more are needed,
okay,
but we absolutely have a rat problem. We have a sanitation problem.
yes,
And it was good to be able to negotiate and get about 3 dozen more cans for our district.
okay,
And we do have an environmental justice task force group that people could find on the website, kristinforharlem.com,
okay,
if you're interested in that. Um, and we have set up about 6 different task force groups that are working on different policy areas. So
mm,
it is a lot going on,
right,
no
right,
doubt. Uh, but I'm really proud of the work we're doing and that we were able to get some tangible results with the service needs and the
right.
cans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good. Are we getting the cans that have the roll down tops, or are they the open cans? Because it feels like the roll down tops that you see somewhere would be a great solution, particularly in terms of the rodent problems. So,
So I would love to get so what we got were the silver cans. So they are
oh, okay.
the closed lid silver cans with the black tops. But what I would love to see us get is if we could get there's some new containerization from the mayor's office that
Okay.
I want to see for commercial strips. And so they said
Mhm.
bids can put in for that. So I would love to
Okay.
see us get some of that on 125th. And also the solar compactor cans. That might be what you're talking about with the opening.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
roll down thing, it
Yeah.
seems like when you put your garbage in there, nothing can get in there, and it's,
That's what
it's
we
secure.
need. That's what
Yeah,
we need. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we really have to upgrade because we have a lot of what you've probably seen as these open wire baskets.
Right. Yeah.
They wanted to send more of those. Absolutely not. I
No.
said, don't send
No.
any more. Don't send any more of these.
Yeah.
The open wire baskets are ineffective. It's
Right. Yeah.
really
Yeah. And for all of New York City, and because there is a problem, I'm Terri Wisdom. This is Harlem Network News, and we're here with our city council member, Kristin Richardson Jordan. And because it's an issue citywide, it just seems like there needs to be like, an edict,
yes,
all the cans,
yes,
because there's probably a lot of funds
yes,
spent in terms of trying to control, or exterminate or whatever, when it's probably a manual situation. If you have garbage cans that close down, that solves half the problem,
absolutely,
so
absolutely.
yeah.
I did a Insta live with an animal rights activist who
Okay.
had a real lens on this, but we're actually making our environment very friendly for the rats, and that's why they keep multiplying. Why we have such an
Of
issue.
course. Mhm.
And I'm glad you bring up about a citywide standard because actually just this week, this coming Thursday,
Mhm.
me and Councilmember Sandy Nurse are
Okay.
introducing a bill that would actually ban the open wire baskets and
Yeah,
make sure that
they should be
all
banned.
baskets have,
It's very clear. And,
yeah,
even in a home, most people in their kitchen don't have an open basket. They have a basket that, has a top that can open
yeah,
and close
yeah.
because there's
So
food,
yeah, so
so
I'm hoping we get somewhere we can get support for this because it is a piece of ledge that would require that all our trash cans throughout the city have lids, which
yeah,
is
I'm
this
in
one
favor.
simple step,
I'm in favor. It's basic. So I know we don't have a whole lot of time, and a part of what we try to do at Harlem Network News is to really have conversations, not 2-minute sound bites. So I know that I believe you have a task force on Black and Brown housing and anti-gentrification. And I know that you said you were going to speak about your housing rubric. So I'm sure those are intertwined, but if you can
Yes.
break that down and tell us, how you're approaching all of this.
Yes, yes. Well, I have definitely been getting into some good trouble with this one because a lot of outside developers don't like the rubric because it means they have to make less money. But this is my point: is that um, you know no one in that industry is going penniless, and what has to happen because we've had huge displacement in Harlem and we've lost over 10,000 Black residents in the last census. We lost all income brackets of people who made less than 50,000 a year. And so we need to take corrective action because our people are getting pushed out. And so those who are making a lot of money need to make less money and put in some housing that can really be affordable to the community. And I want to be clear, like affordable to the community,
Okay.
not just
I'm with you on
affordable,
that one.
not defined like
Yeah.
affordable to who? No, affordable to the community. And that's what the rubric is about. So it has a measurement for what is called deeply affordable housing at
What
30.
is it called?
It's called deeply affordable housing.
Deeply affordable housing.
Mhm.
Okay. Mhm.
And it's at and it's for those who would make between 20,000 to 30,000 a year.
Mhm.
Um, and and the reason why we put in a measure for that is because that is the largest
Mhm.
displaced group from
Okay.
Harlem.
Mhm.
Those who are in that income bracket, and so we need to have places for our people to live.
Mhm.
So this is a standard saying if you're putting up housing, like the 145 project,
Yes.
we've
Yes.
we've been talking about. I've been very strong against the project. I want to be clear, this is a project that initially had zero deeply affordable units, and now has only 27 out of 915 units, 27 that are deeply affordable. So again, we're talking about—
So what is affordable? When they
right.
say affordable, because I know there's
Yes.
a metric for what is affordable.
Yes.
But when they say affordable, what is that number and who does that address? And then you said now they're dealing with deeply affordable as well. And also, if you could explain what your housing rubric is or what rubric means. I
Yeah.
know I did, look it up, but I want to translate it into what you're doing and what you're saying so that
Yes.
everyone understands.
I appreciate that. I know it sometimes feels a bit technical, but I think the numbers matter and the details matter. And this is
Okay.
some of the lying that goes on. So when they say affordable, they're defining affordable by something called mandatory inclusionary housing.
Okay.
That average income uh, is lumping us here in Harlem in with Midtown, downtown, and even parts of Westchester. So 100% AMI, which is what they call affordable, is
And what is AMI? Because there are these terms that are tossed around, and I'm sure most people don't know what it means. And, they're a little sheepish to ask. So what is AMI? Thanks.
So AMI stands for the average median income. And that is basically the middle of what everyone in that area makes. So some people make less, some people make more, but this is the middle. And but the issue is when you lump Harlem in with wealthier areas, then that middle, quote unquote, middle isn't really the middle for Harlem.
Got
So
it.
so what they're calling affordable is if people are making 93,000 a year. So you're at 90,000 a year or more. That's what mandatory inclusionary housing is calling the middle. Now in Harlem, our middle is 49,000 a year. Some make less, some make more, but that's our middle. So you're literally talking about 2 times as much as what Harlem actually makes. And this is why we sometimes have buildings going up where they're saying this is affordable, and all of us here in Harlem are looking around like, what are you talking like? What are you like affordable to?
Affordable to who? So the question is, because there's a lot of thought and conversation, and as you said, everybody that lives here, even working people, this is not people that are not working,
right?
But a medium
I'm glad you make that distinction.
$49,000 is kind of a lot, especially in this community. And it also, just given the nature of work, it may not be consistent. People may have an income of XYZ, and then something happens, or, if they're in a marriage or partnership, somebody's not working, or, somebody's home with the kids, or whatever the circumstances are. So those things can change. But when you say you have put this out, but how is this going to be put into effect? Because, from what I see, I just see developers rolling in, coming to the community board, going to, whatever the bodies are, and, maybe they get stopped at the community board, they get stopped by the borough president, but they're in the other land development or use or something, and they get passed. And then I guess city council, just like the 145 project. And if you would share a little bit about the 145 project, I want to make sure everybody knows what that is. But then they, where does the buck stop? Who can stop them? who can control them, who can make them do what we believe is the right thing. And the right thing is for people to have decent housing to live in and to raise their children, to raise their families, and not have that kind of stress. And I think the economic situations that have happened here in Harlem are a root cause of a lot of the wrongs. The root cause of the homelessness, the root cause of the mental illness, the root cause of some of the educational problems. The root cause is coming from mental illness, from economics. It's even, pushing over to health, because if people are so stressed out that they don't know where they're going to live or how they're going to feed their kids, in a genealogy where high blood pressure might be, something on the gene pool, that's just going to make it worse. So what is actually being done, or what power do you have to put this rubric in effect?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, and I so appreciate you bringing up the point about working people, because those incomes that I'm talking about with the deeply affordable housing, people may assume that means someone is on welfare, or it means someone isn't working, and that is not true. That is not necessarily the case.
Right.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I think in order to get the rubric to be in effect, we will need to all stand together, because here's what happens. I can take a stand, which I have, and I can say, no, if you don't put in housing that is affordable to the community, then you're not going to get a vote on this project from me.
Okay.
And I have done that. But what happens is then the developer will try to go to the borough president and see if, oh, well, can I get the borough president to agree to this plan?
Yeah.
And then if that didn't work, they would go to the community board, maybe not even the whole board, maybe just a couple members, and see, oh, can I get this person to agree to the plan? They'll put in space. I mean, this is some of what's happened with 145. They'll add space at the 11th hour and try to find someone in the community that they're going to give free space to, so that that person will advocate for them. And then they'll say, well, we have support from so-and-so because we gave
got it.
So we really, so it is absolutely city council, because we do decide around land use, and there is a lot of preference given to local members. So a lot of times, me being against a project that is in my district will be enough for other members to say,
of the city
hey,
council.
It's your district. So
I think, and this is just a very simple research and development thing, and a knowledge thing, an information thing. This is Harlem Network News. I'm Terri Wisdom. I'm here with our city council person, for those of you who have just joined in, and that's Kristin, Richardson, Jordan. But I think all you need to do is take a walk, take a drive through Harlem, river to river. That's all you need to do. And you need to look at the structures that have been built, and not that you can tell a book by the cover, but like when I go across 124th and I see these, over by Lexington, and I see these massive buildings that have glass, and it's, not to point them, but it's called the Smile. And, I don't know what they have in there, but it doesn't look like it's anything that the community is going to be able to afford to live in or would be welcome. So, and a majority of the buildings going up look that way. Now, maybe because I may be making a wrong assumption by looking at the building, because these are swank buildings that look like they're going to have a pool, a bowling alley. I don't know what they have there, but it doesn't look like it's going to be affordable to regular people. It looks like it's going to be for the wealthy, whoever they are, Black, brown, it looks like it's for the wealthy and probably the childless. So, you know, maybe they can allow
That's an
pets, but
excellent.
that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So the concern is, why in a city where we're crying about homelessness, where we're crying about the drug problem, where we're crying about mental illness, where we're crying about the Black and brown people, and we're crying about crime and guns, because all of this frustration helps to create the crime, the haves and the have-nots. So to me, it's a no-brainer. But to those who are gravelicious and just want to put up their buildings, that's what it is. I mean, I heard a developer, this was in one of the community board meetings, and he was like, well, we can't afford to have any affordable housing. We're not going to have any. And it wasn't a huge building, but just the fact that he boldly said that. And then he said, and we're going to do something for the community. We're going to fix up some tree beds. And I was like, I don't think so.
No,
I mean, we could fix up our own tree beds.
greed.
That's not helping
Yeah.
the community.
I would have,
but it's brazen.
Greed. This is greed. And I know, because I do the math. So you know, I think sometimes people want to say, oh, well, she's just a flaming radical, she doesn't like any development. That's not true. You know, I was firmly advocating for Castle 3. It was a good project. There are other developers I'm in conversation with. They have good projects.
Okay.
And it is economically feasible. A lot of times they are frankly lying to us, and it is greed driven. And also I want to be clear that no one can say if something is affordable or not if they won't release the financials. So this has been an issue with 145, that they have said, oh, it's not affordable for us to be able to put in more units that are affordable to the community. But when the community board asked for a financial breakdown at the level of an investor, that was not provided. When I asked for a financial breakdown, that was not provided. So these claims really seem false and honestly untrue, because when asked to provide some level of documentation, the developer doesn't have it.
Okay, so the question is, going back to the question, because I'm a stickler on this, what can the city and the legislation do to stop this? Because from my standpoint, and I don't know all the loopholes and everything else, but it seems like there should be some edict where there's a moratorium on this, particularly in Harlem. And that whoever's built these buildings, I don't care what they say, but it has to be where people can come in, afford, because otherwise it means nothing that these big, humongous skyscrapers are being built that nobody can live in, and other people are going to have to sleep on the street.
So I absolutely agree. What has to happen is we need council members to take a stand and to look at the data in their district. So that's what I did, right? The rubric didn't come from my head. The rubric came from census data. It's the information. So if we can get other council members to also do that, and then we hold the developers' feet to the fire and say, listen, you need to match this census data. And it absolutely can be done, because actually I'm following in the footsteps of others. And I've talked very openly about admiring some of the work from Charles and Inez Barron in East New York.
Yes.
And they did this. And that is why they didn't see the displacement that communities like Harlem and the other Harlems of the world have been seeing. They actually did not see that in East New York because they had a really strong stance on new developments. So I think this is doable. I think we need the community to be on board and to help exert that pressure. You know, when we have the community board hearing, when we have the city council hearing, I know that's hard sometimes for people to join these spaces, but it's very important. I had 3 colleagues who texted me during the hearing and said, I am with you.
Okay.
And
well, that's great. It's
so
great.
speaks to the testimony, the public's
Yeah,
testimony,
yeah.
helping
No,
to
I mean, I
strengthen.
think it's important. And I mean, I think you'd have to be, unable to see or hear or feel, to not understand. And I would be very interested to find out what the rate of development is here in Harlem as opposed to other parts of the city, because that's another critical factor because it looks like it's just, free season here.
I can definitely pull that data, but I would absolutely agree with you. Because we're in Manhattan, it's
Mhm.
like prime real estate, and
Yes.
we are getting inundated.
Yeah,
We are.
yeah, I think so. And it's
Yeah.
discouraging. And even
Yeah.
emotionally for people who live here. And like you said, it's people who are working. But for most people who live here, when they see these new buildings, it's a loathing feeling because they're aware that wherever they're living, they have to stay there because, it's affordable right now, even if it's not the best conditions, but they don't feel like they could move to a better place. Now, quickly, what is happening with 145? Where are we now with that? I understand that the Civil Rights Museum with Nan has pulled out of the project. I'm not certain as to why, but I understand that that has happened. And also, I wondered if Nan is still going to stay in the facility with their office. So
So,
I don't know if you have information on that and
well,
how that
so
impacts the project.
so I don't have firm confirmation on that, but I will say that the plans that have been submitted to the council, they do include Nan still having an office space there, even though there's no longer the museum. And they also include what the argument that they have been making, which is that there are so-called affordable units. Again, this is not affordable to Harlem. Um, but that has been the case they've been making, that the museum has left because now we're going to add these so-called affordable units. Um, I believe it was the public pressure. I believe that at the end of the day, folks realized that keeping the people of Harlem in Harlem was paramount to anything else. That came before anything else, and that's why the plans have changed.
Here, I'm sorry, I was muted. I don't know exactly what transpired, and I will try, from a media standpoint, to do a deep
Yeah,
dive
to
and
figure it
find
out.
out from Reverend Sharpton what transpired, to make them decide no museum. Because I think that the 145 people were using that as like a carrot,
They
as
were.
well. So that
Yeah.
was going on. Now we have some other things that are going on in our community, and I'm sure many more than that. But where are we? And have you been involved with the Esplanade Garden situation, with the capital improvement, and a lot of senior citizens being in abusive, repair situations? Where are we with that? You know,
So so I'll definitely say that's high up on the list. There's not a week that goes by that I don't hear about something going on in Esplanade, and it's just it really does have to be addressed. So there are two major things I want to say that came from me around it. The first is that I did put in a request for speaker funds to help with the repairs and the work that is needed there. I also have been in contact with Council Member Gail Brewer, who chairs the Oversight Committee, and she has said that Esplanade is on her radar in terms of doing a investigation of HPD
okay,
um, and what companies have been doing what repairs in there. Now, the last I spoke to her about it, we've had two conversations around it. The last I spoke to her about it, it had to do with just getting things up and running and making the
okay,
committee smooth, but that it is on her list. and I will definitely keep bringing it up because I do
That's
believe an
critical, and
investigation
it's
needs to
time
happen.
sensitive. And I
Yeah,
myself, from
yeah.
a journalism standpoint, I have met with some of the residents. I've gone in, I've documented, I've seen
I
where the
mean, it's terrible.
contractors, yeah, the contractors have taken out apartments and have whole floors, you know, and a lot of the people are, we in here in Harlem, we have senior citizens, we have seniors, and then we got seniors. And there are many people in Esplanade Gardens that are over 80, you know, and they are people who have worked all their lives and, you know, have treasured their home. And pretty much they've been living in some unconscionable and unhealthy conditions with dust and everything else. So I think it's time sensitive, you know, and just what that stress causes, particularly for elder people. And these are all people who are very active in terms of voting and organizing, and they just still have not been able to pierce the veil. So I think, as I know, our Assembly member Al Taylor had several meetings, you know, and it's, you know, but the movement has to happen.
Well, the movement hasn't been happening, so
Yeah,
that's I mean that's just being honest around it. It has
yeah,
not been
yeah,
happening at the level it needs to be, and um, you know, I will engage. I do promise to engage in a third conversation around an investigation in
yeah,
that
yeah.
space
It
because I
has
do
to.
believe there's something deeper going on. Um,
Yeah,
I think there's something deeper going on.
yeah. So it, you know,
Yeah.
it has to happen because people in New York City. I mean, we have exposés on NYCHA. You know, it just came on, you know, yesterday with, you know, people's cabinets falling down and, you know, leaks and all this. But Esplanade Gardens is not NYCHA, and people are in a co-op situation where they're getting capital improvements and they're having to pay for that, and they still have not gotten the full service. So, you know, I think all eyes on Esplanade Gardens as far as I'm concerned. And what about Lenox Terrace, which is another, and I'm targeting these because these are
Oh,
buildings where
they're big
thousands of
complexes.
people
Yes,
live. They're big complexes.
yes, and
And
they're battlegrounds
yeah,
for
yeah. And we had the fire of the strip mall, which I believe you were very instrumental in keeping on pushing, so that we did find out that it was arson. So where are we with that? And I mean, I got that from the news. I don't know if I'm speaking truth to power on
no,
it.
that no, FDNY did rule it as arson, and you know there was quite a bit of pushback when the fires happened. Um, that I put out a statement that I believe there was foul play afoot, simply because we've had now multiple fires in that same area,
Mhm.
and it's highly suspicious. And you know, for that, people were saying, "Oh, you're conspiracy theorists" and things like that. You know, but the point I've been hammering home is, you know, it's not a conspiracy theory if it's true. If there's actually
Right. Yeah.
fire
And I'm
happening.
glad that
So,
we were able to get to the point where we know that it was arson. That's huge. You know, it's huge because we all saw it. We saw what happened. We saw it was, I guess, a 5 alarm fire that lasted for 5 hours. You know, this is not a normal
this,
scenario.
this
And
is
it
one of
wiped
the
out buildings. And, you know, the owners of Lenox Terrace, I believe, own that strip as well. And there was a huge, you know, community pushback for them not to build, you know,
yeah,
5 more buildings on this
absolutely,
same square, you know, square block. So the
absolutely.
question is, what's happening? Are they building something there? What's going on?
So right now they are waiting to see what happens with 145, and
Okay.
this is part of why um, it's really pivotal that we get the right results in turning down that 145 project, because Olnick is looking to see if they're able to do an upzoning, if Teitelbaum is able to do an upzoning over there, then they'll feel more confident in trying to put in papers to do an upzoning here at Lenox Terrace, which is something they tried before and failed. so they would try again. So it is actually my greatest hope that we'll see the correct no vote on the 145 project in the coming weeks, and then that will discourage Olnick, and then we could talk about building something that is within the current zoning for that area. Or if they are going to build buildings, doing something within the rubric.
Okay. Okay. So we, here have a lot to unpack, and I know that your district 9 is a little bit broad, and I trust there are council members who border our district. Are you working collectively with them on these projects?
Yes. I've had some great conversations with Sean. Sean Abreu is
Yes.
District 7, and also with Carmen De La Rosa,
Okay.
who's above us with Wash Heights.
Mhm.
There's been an effort to fund the Till buildings. I don't know how many folks know about that, but
What are the Till buildings? This is Harlem Network News, and
you
we're
know,
nearing the end of our hour. But what are the Till
but
buildings?
just
I
quickly,
when we
it's
throw these things out, I want people to know what we're talking about.
yeah, so just quickly, Till was a program funded in the 70s, and it was this idea of taking buildings from slumlords, landlords who didn't treat the buildings well, turning it over to the city. The city then owns the buildings. The residents get organized. They run tenant associations. They pay rent to the city. They fix the repairs, and then with the city's support, they rehab the buildings and turn it over to the residents, and they become HDFCs and co-op.
Okay.
So I've been working, I actually was just recently on New York One advocating with Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa, and we've been working closely on pushing this fight to fund the TILs in this fiscal budget, in this upcoming city budget.
Okay.
So that's been one. And then Sean Abreu and I are both supporters of an organization called Future Giants that does tutoring in the neighborhood. And yes, it's two different districts, but of course, the schools overlap, the children are similar populations. So, and I look forward to expanding, even more in partnership. Me and Diane Ayalu are we are co-primes on a bill that would actually increase benefits for veterans, and we're introducing that legislation.
Okay. So it's a whole lot, and it looks like
There's a lot going on.
Months and standing up to it.
Yeah.
I wanted to find out. I know that we have the community board here, which is Community Board 10, which is in your district, and we've had the situation where there were no reappointments, and a whole crew of new people are coming in. Can you share like how that happened? What the city council, where does the city council step in on this, and where does the borough president weigh on this, and then how does it all work? Because I think a lot of people don't have clarity, myself included. So if you could share that, and just what the reason, rationale, and the direction, that you feel is important to go in. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the question. And I want to start by saying that I truly appreciate your work on the board and everyone's work on the board, because a lot of times, people do this work, they do it unpaid, and there isn't always an acknowledgement of that. So I do want to be very clear that I appreciate and honor the work, and that the move to put in new voice has to do with just that, a need for new voice, and wanting to empower our community and broaden this circle of those who are politically engaged and politically involved. Sorry, there's a little going off in my background here.
It's okay. We're gonna wrap up. Yeah. No, I thought that was a critical question, because with the community board, I trust the people that are the chairs probably could not be moved. And I don't know if seniority had anything to do with it. And then of course it comes up every 2 years that people have to reapply, you
So
know.
there is,
So
yeah, there is 2-year terms and then people reapply. And also the way the board is set up, it's not going to be all new all at once
right,
because
yeah,
it's staggered terms. So
right,
there is continuity in that there are people who are currently there who are still serving their term, who can help bring, newer folks up to speed. And then also what I would love to see happen is for the community board meetings to involve a lot of people who maybe aren't community board members,
yeah,
have community members engaged in the board, because we're in a situation where when you walk down the street and you ask people about the community board, they say like, what community board? Or they say who, or what are you talking about? So I think the effort needs to be made to make this pool bigger, have more folks in the community know and understand what the board is, and really have some movement leadership here. And my greatest hope, and I will invest in those conversations. It's been a really tough couple weeks, but I will invest in the
right,
conversations
yeah,
because I do hope that people will stay engaged and
mm,
even without being a voting member, be part of the board's activities, be part of advising others, be part of the movement that is needed around different projects. Um, I think that all of that is important, um, and I thought that fresh energy was important.
right,
And people applied. We got a wave of applicants who
right,
were interested, who had
mhm.
never had a chance. So also this, just the value of giving people a chance.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. But like I was saying, because there are chairs, those people are, in place. Those people, are mainly the ones who have been there the longest time. But one of the things, my observation, and this is Terri Wisdom, Harlem Network News, and I'm here with Kristin, Richardson, Jordan. Our community board in Community Board 10, and probably for a lot of reasons, um, we are not as powerful as, let's say, the Upper West Side Board. And I think it's very important that the Harlem board become more powerful or become empowered to make change. So that if we say as a board, no developers are not coming in, no means no. Or if we say, we don't want, 4 more drug treatment centers on the same block, no means no. So the question is, how do we really empower that board who is not as powerful for a lot of reasons? Could be finance, could be disparities, economic, racial, a lot of different reasons, educational, I'm not sure. But that's a big and huge question in terms
I
of what
think
I
that
would like to see happen.
I
Mhm.
think that's a great question. I think one is definitely financial, and that's why I did allocate resources to all 3 boards in District 9
Oh,
to continue what I believe have already started, but the efforts to do a collective and community mapping of the districts,
okay.
and we have effort to come together on, I think it's the 23rd, I believe it's the 23rd of this month, to have a conversation around the rubric as well, because what I would love to do is have that be not just, a personal rubric, but even if it involves adjusting it, have it be something that is collective. So we're all on the same page, which I know is easier said than done, but
Yeah,
having everyone take a stand and be on the same page would help with that power that you're talking about, like building that base of
right.
power.
Yeah, so that we're
Yeah.
strong and so that, our neighborhood and our district is not one that just gets rolled over.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
great,
'Cause
great
that has been
concern.
happening.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
definitely
it's
been happening.
a great concern.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're pretty much at the end of the hour. I know that you have several task force. And I know that the addiction related community care task force is a huge one. How's that going? And if there are any closing statements, I know you have an event coming up for Malcolm X birthday up at the museum. So if you want to share a little bit about that and how people can attend. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So with the CARE task force, we've really been addressing this issue of the drug treatment and drug treatment centers in the area, and also coupling that with compassionate care that is needed for those that are really in need. So there's a resolution that actually came out of the task force that calls upon treatment centers to be designated and made in areas that are right now treatment deserts, which is not us, right? We are not
Yes.
the treatment desert,
Right.
right? We
Yeah,
are, if anything, the overflow.
right.
But what we need is to be able to alleviate some of that pressure by putting treatment in areas that are right now deserts,
Okay.
and it's areas where people, haven't wanted the treatment. They don't want, quote, those people there, et
Right.
cetera.
Right.
But they need to house treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a resolution that came out with calling upon the state to use its funding to do just that. And then we're also engaging in care teams where we help people who are on the corners and on the streets into points and spaces for care, so that people are not using on the streets, which is more dangerous for them. And actually, using some of the safe spaces and places that we do have. And that also alleviates some of the burden on the community as well. So that's the kind of twofold mission. We do have many task forces, many events. I know we're running out of time,
Yes.
but you could go to kristinforharlem.com. And on the bottom right, there's a button that says events and task forces. And you
Okay.
click that and it shows you our calendar of events and any way to sign up for any of the task forces.
Okay. In your opinion, I know that you're just 4 months in, but
Yeah.
have the task force been as effective in making changes with meeting your expectations?
It's been
And
a
has
real
that happened?
No, I appreciate the question. It's been a real mixed bag. I really believe in participatory democracy. So I really want to see people engage in the task force. Let's have legislation and things come out of them. Housing has been amazing. The addiction related care task force has done some great work, even though it's small. But then others, it's been a struggle to get some of the others off the ground. So it's definitely been a mixed bag. But we're gonna keep working on it and keep adjusting them. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. This is a
Yeah.
huge job,
Mhm.
and you have jumped in the deep water as well and with the rest of us. So we thank you for that. And what about the Malcolm X event that is coming up, please?
Oh, yes. So we're doing a commemoration and celebration of Malcolm X. And that's actually we're actually doing it at our center where we have our office hours. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
actually at 135th Street,
Okay.
181 West 135th Street.
Okay.
This coming Thursday. And, let's just commemorate and celebrate this amazing man and the thinking, the radical thinking, the vision, the love for community that
Okay.
came from Malcolm X.
Okay. That sounds great. What time is your event? And do people have to sign up or, be vaccinated, wear masks? What are some of the coordinates to attend?
So it is from 5 to 6:30.
Okay.
You do not have to sign up. You can just come.
Okay.
And we do ask for people to be vaxxed, and we do require people to wear masks.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. And we
Yeah.
can't go into it today, but the whole COVID situation, the pandemic situation
Yeah,
is ongoing.
it
And
is.
we would ask everyone to be careful and conscious because there's an uptick. The numbers are up. They're up in the schools. They're up in the city. And so COVID is not over. We ask people to, take care of yourself, whatever supplements you're taking, because it's hitting vaccinated and unvaccinated people. So, we have to all take personal responsibility. I would also like to share that at the Schomburg this Thursday, the VIP starts at 6. And there's a film called The Patterson. And it is The Patterson, A Bronx Tale. It'll be at the Schomburg. They actually were on New York One yesterday talking about it. One of the filmmakers, Adrian Bahati Best, as well as Cheryl Hill. And I know that Amandila Best was also part of the filmmaking team. And it's very befitting with everything that we're hearing about public housing to hear a huge and incredible story of the success of people coming out of the housing projects in the 50s and the great things that people went on to do. The filmmaker Adrian Best, I know, went in the armed services, completed, film school, worked at ABC 2020 as a camera person for about 25, 30 years, got his degree from City House, and his basketball players, Nate Tiny Archibald, who lived in the, so it's a good story. So those of you that can come out for the VIP or just the screening at 7:30, this is a labor of love and success. So thank you very much, and we appreciate you. Please continue to follow us at Harlem Network News, and you can go to harlemnetworknews.com. If you have stories, please share it with us, donations. It helps us to just keep this going. But importantly, tell a friend to tell a friend. And thank you, Kristin, for really sitting in our Harlem Network News. I call it hot seat because we try to discuss and let the community know all. So we appreciate you.
It was great.
And continue the great work. And I'm sure it has been a lot to get into the whole city council mode, from teacher to writer to now legislator. But, teachers are resilient people.
Ashe,
do a lot of things.
Yeah.
So thank you for the fresh thoughts and moves. And let's continue and really turn some of these task force and things, into edicts, because that's what's needed, and also quick movement. So thank you very much. And the gunshot thing, we can't even get into that. It's a whole nother thing. And as you know, my son was a victim of gun violence on November 5th. I have joined Harlem Mothers Save. It was always an important factor to me, but it's personal. So we have a lot going. A lot.
That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. We have. I'll be back because we definitely have more. We definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, and have a great day. And it's a great day in Harlem as every day. So take care. Thank you.